Hello there, my beautiful authentic seekers, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hello. My name is Kloee Taylor, and on this channel, I believe we have one of the most cozy, vibey, autumnal corners of the internet. So if you like the way that I read and this reading resonates with you, be sure to hit that subscribe button. So today's reading, I felt so incredibly inspired to sit down, chill with your spirit guides, and basically give you the reading that I would give if a friend came to me and they felt like they were a little lost in life. This is like who you're meant to be. And this reading is designed and was meditated on to really speak from your spirit guides to basically give you an uplifting message about who you're meant to be in this lifetime if you're feeling lost, what you are going to be aspiring towards, or what would help you if you started to aspire towards it, and basically any challenges that you'll be met with and how you'll overcome them and what blessings you'll receive once you get there. So I hope you'll stick around for this reading, and if you know anyone in your life right now that really could use an uplifting message because they're feeling lost, please send them this link, share this video with them, because I really do believe that this one is going to be a very impactful one. So just a couple of things. If you've never done a pick a card before, it's okay to choose more than one. Pile number 1, we have the red rose. Pile number 2, we have yellow. And pile number 4, we have orange. You can go by the rose colors. You can look at the timestamps in the description box or in the top pinned comment below, and go by if there's any like lucky numbers there for you. That's often how, when I look for if a pick a card is for me, usually my lucky numbers will be present. You can also go with the emoji that's there. Maybe it's an emoji you use a lot, but just know that you're never going to choose wrong. It's okay to choose more than one. And now I'm going to give you about a minute with some meditation music to make a selection. All right, pile number 1. So we're going to start with these 5 cards first. I have many more to come, but who you are meant to be in this life, these are like the archetypes that make you up, or who are meant to make up the person that you came here to be. And something that I think is so funny is you literally have the card Judge, and this could be like literally becoming a judge, but it's also about being very critical. And I actually think that This is something that you might currently really put down in yourself, that you think you're like too critical of others or yourself. And the reason I think this is funny is I was just doing like a deep dive very recently. So it's funny that you would resonate with my reading and like come to it, because you wouldn't be able to receive it if you weren't vibing on the same frequency as me. Like you wouldn't have even found it. But what I think is so funny about this is I was recently doing a deep dive into the Virgo midheaven, which is like, if you don't know your midheaven, it's oftentimes your 10th house, not always though, but it's like the highest point in your birth charts. And the midheaven, if you have a Virgo midheaven, you're actually meant to be highly critical. Like that is what people expect of you, is to critique the world. And not to say you need to like always be putting people down, but like you're actually excellent at being a good judge of character, and you're excellent at critiquing and perfecting things. So what you might see as a weakness, if this is you, now that doesn't mean that if you don't have a Virgo midheaven, like you don't have to have a Virgo midheaven for this to be your reading. I just wanted to point that out in case you are, that that's actually a huge part of who you came here to be. It's what the world actually expects of you, and not in like a gross, like, the world has expectations and you better follow them. It's very like, you will actually see so much glory in your life if you follow that. And not like put yourself down for having judgments, because you're actually a good judge of character and it's who you're meant to be in this lifetime. So first of all, and that doesn't mean that you just get to sit up on your high horse and gossip about people and judge people. It's not that. It's that you actually have this great finesse for being able to have really strong character value and notice character value in others. And it's almost like you're like a human lie detector as well. Like you're meant to be somebody that can like spot the person that is just not telling the truth. And then we have Destroyer, Child Eternal, Artist, and Beggar. So Destroyer, this is all about destroying something that was previously built for you. So if you chose pile number 1, you really are the cycle breaker in your family. You are somebody that came to not do it like the rest. And you're meant to actually change several generations of how things have been done. I actually feel like a lot of people that are millennials or Gen Zs at this time, you could also be Gen X, but I feel like it's a little less common. A lot of millennial and Gen Z people came here with that purpose. Like we were not supposed to continue what has been being done because it's not working. And we're supposed to, especially millennials, because if you are a millennial, you have what is known as Pluto in the sign of Scorpio, which is the destroyer, the great transformer. Our whole generation came here to wipe the slate clean and basically give future generations a chance to build it different. So beings that we have Destroyer, you might be a millennial, you might not, you might be somebody that's just ushering in these changes. It also might come down to your family line, and maybe you're somebody that came into this life as maybe your family has like a brick and mortar business and you were expected to take that over. You're actually going to be the first person that says no. Maybe you came from a line of academics, right? And you decided like, nah, academics are not for me. I want to do something different. Maybe you came from a line of like, people that like you were expected to just like become a housewife or just like raise a family. Not to say that there's anything wrong with any of these things that I'm mentioning. I'm literally just giving examples of what this could be. And you want something different. So you are the person that is actually really going to destroy the family image. And it doesn't mean that your family is now going to have this like dark mark over it. It's actually a good thing because future generations are going to feel so much more expansion because you chose to do it differently. Even if you don't yourself end up having kids, you might be the really cool uncle, the really cool aunt, the really cool cousin that shows people in your lineage that things can be done differently. And it's actually really important that you're here to be the disruptor, even if it's uncomfortable. And this might be something that currently is really hard for you. You might feel really, really afraid or scared to not follow the path that was given to you, but you actually really did come here to crush it. Now, something that I think is really beautiful for you, pile number one, in the sense of who you came here to be, we have the child eternal and the artist here. And both of these cards say to me that some of you are also going to hate this answer, and I'm so sorry. It's meant to be a good thing, though. You're not going to be just doing one thing. Especially if you put a lot of your worth and value on what you're able to produce or what kind of career you're going to have, you are actually not going to be the kind of person that just does one thing. And it doesn't mean you're going to run yourself ragged doing 100 things. It means that during different phases of your life, you're going to be invested in different things. And I actually think as like a society, as humanity, we're moving more towards this way of living already. We're just at a really hard, critical point where we haven't quite seen how that's going to play out yet, because most of us are starting it now. So we haven't really gotten the opportunity to see not kind of boxing people into like one career for 60 years, right? 50 or 60 years. But the most important thing for you, pile number one, is going to be keeping your childlike essence about you. Whenever you feel like you're too constricted, too bored, or things feel mundane, that is going to be your first number one sign that you are not in alignment with what you're currently doing anymore. And you need to trust that. Even if you have to jump into the unknown or put your faith into something else every 5, 6, 7 years or less, that is okay. It is okay to stop doing what you've been doing and decide to get into something else. And it doesn't mean that every time it has to be a failure, or every time it's going to be something that makes you fall apart or lose financial stability. It can be something that every time you jump into something bigger and better, right? And I say that also because we have the artist with it. And I like the child eternal mixed with the artist, because children, they do not have like, they're just like these artists that are constantly running on creative mode. They really are. Children, if you watch them, they are some of the most creative individuals. They can make fun out of anything. I literally just spent a week with my 10-year-old niece, who I literally watched this kid. She would just do anything. Like, she would make little cardboard figurines with, also like obviously being supervised, but like she would just like get out her cardboard and her markers and like a hot glue gun. And she would just like start making statues of her favorite characters in Five Nights at Freddy's. And I was just like, wow, like with actual like moving hinges and everything. I was so freaking impressed. And I was like, wow, your mind literally was like, yo, I want to create my own figurines instead of just having to get them at the store. So I'm going to make my own. Like, kids are just like that. And I know this also, just like as another small side story. When I think about my own childhood, as crazy as it was, I will never forget as a kid, and this is like meant to be a cool story, not a sad story. I will never forget being very envious as a kid of one of my friends had like 3 Barbie houses and I didn't have one. Okay. And I'm a Cancer Venus. The home is very important to me. But I remember like I really wanted a Barbie house, and I don't know why it was never given to me. Like, it is what it is. I'm not trying to be entitled about it, but instead of being so upset that that was never gifted to me as a child, my creative mind, I took boxes from my parents' garage and I built the craziest Barbie mansion. Like, I'm talking, I got construction paper out and I like wallpapered the walls. I got a sewing needle out and like old clothes, and I literally made like bed sheets and pillows and stuff like that for my Barbies. And I did this all by myself. Like I was a very neglected child. Like I was very neglected. Everybody just kind of left me alone. But I did. I had like this 3-story mansion that I built into my closet as a kid. And the funny thing is this friend that I had, she would come over and play with me, the one that had a bunch of Barbie houses. And she told me that my homemade house, she appreciated it more than the ones that she had. And I think that's so funny as like a story as adults later. But anyways, that's beside the point. My point is that kids don't let things stop them. When they want to be creative, they will find ways to make the things that they desire to see come to life. And this is the energy that you're going to carry throughout your life. And you might feel really disconnected from this right now. And unfortunately, we do live in a world that demonizes the artist, that says you're going to starve or you're going to have to be a beggar, right? You're going to starve if you're an artist. You're never going to make it. But there are so many examples in life of why that's not true. And like maybe you want to sing. Singing is what really makes you happy. Did you know how many careers there are in singing that aren't just like being a famous singer? You could do voice acting. You could do meditation recording, frequency music. There's so like, I'm not into music specifically, but I guarantee you that there are a boatload of careers in music and song. Maybe you really want to be a painter, but you like don't want to go the route of having your own gallery. There are so many ways that you could use your painting skills to create beautiful things. Maybe you'll be like a mural artist, okay? That's really highly sought after. Or maybe you really just love putting paint to something. Maybe you want to get into like house painting, right? There's so many different pathways that can take you, and you never have to commit to just one. It's honestly what I'm getting from this is you might even feel lost right now because you are lacking belief in yourself. You're way more afraid of what could go wrong instead of telling yourself all the things that could go right. And it's holding you back right now. I know that this path has not been easy. There's no rule book for it. Nobody came before you and told you, hey, this is how you do the thing. You're the one that has had to figure it out. But keep trusting your path. And know that when it feels uncomfortable, this is a sign that you need to realign. And we also have beggar, which this is about, this is interesting. So the light attribute, which is what I'm kind of going after with these readings, is confronts empowerment at the level of physical survival, awakens the spiritual authority of humanity, compassion, and self-esteem. So I feel like you're also someone that awakens the spiritual authority of humility, compassion, and self-esteem. What's the shadow? Dependence on others to the exclusion of, dependence on others to the exclusion of effort. So that's kind of like the dark side of being the beggar. This might be something that you actually have to work towards because there is an empowered version of the beggar. The empowered version of the beggar is literally that, confronting empowerment at the level of physical survival, awakening spiritual authority of humility, compassion, and self-esteem. So if this is something that you're dealing with right now, like dependence on others to the exclusion of your own effort of going for this, you need to look at this as an actually empowered state. And I know that that's hard to flip the script on that. It's hard to... When we feel like something disempowers us, it's hard to give it a new definition. But this actually can be an empowering thing for you that actually allows you to raise your self-esteem, raise your compassion, raise your humility. And I know this sounds like a load of bullshit, but it really is what Spirit is giving me right now. And I that's just me saying that it sounds like a load of bullshit. Spirit's getting kind of mad at me for saying that, actually. Not mad, but just annoyed, because I feel like to the human self, I know what it feels like to hear something like this, but you don't know how good things can get sometimes until you experience the reverse of that. And think about what you have gone through, and how if you met somebody else going through what you're going through, you would know exactly what to say to them. You would know exactly how to help them. You would know exactly how to empower them through it because you have gone through it first. So I really feel like you're in a place right now that feels really constricted and difficult, but let's find out how you're going to become this person, what you need to do right now that's actually going to help. So we have the Eight of Wands, which this is all about multiple opportunity, okay? Doing a multitude of things. So this is really, to me, about taking inspired action more than anything else. Taking inspired action, allowing yourself to follow what makes you happy on any given day, or what brings you joy on any given day, which is ultimately going to change day over day. You're not going to be drilling the same thing in over and over and over. I just don't think that that is the right path for you right now, but it's committing to what brings you joy in any given day, regardless of external circumstances, regardless of other people in your life. And it's actually going to open you up to more opportunities, because the Eight of Wands is opportunity. Something that you really need to start doing, pile number one, is stop saying no. And I don't mean like, to your detriment or to your boundaries. Don't like disregard yourself. What I am saying is, if somebody invites you to a group event, you need to go. If you have an appointment that's upcoming, you need to go. If you have a family thing coming up and your family annoys the absolute shit out of you, you need to go. And it's not because you need to make yourself suffer or hurt yourself. It's that there are opportunities that are going to be given to you through other people. So if you're not putting yourself in the way of other people, you're not going to receive them. And I'm honestly seeing this like vision in my third eye of like somebody that just feels like they're in a cage, like they're very caged in and by themselves. And there's nothing wrong with spending alone time ever. I think spending alone time is like some of the deepest work you'll do with yourself, and it's necessary. But if there's anything within the coming weeks as you're feeling this way, where somebody invites you to something, and preferably like physically in person, because I know in this day and age, we have so much online now, which is a blessing for sure. And also, like, please know if you're like immune compromised or something, like take what resonates with this and leave the rest. Like, I fully respect your need to stay at home and do things virtually, but if you are able to, get out of the house, get out of the apartment, get out of the studio, right? Get out of the office if you're at work 24/7. Go and do something with others, because I really feel that there are opportunities that are trying to make their way to you, but you have no idea that they even exist because you aren't connecting enough outside of you. And we have the Ace of Swords. And with that, we also have the Prince of Swords, which is like the Knight of Swords in this deck. Oops. So with the Prince of Swords, Ace of Swords, this to me is... Sorry, I'm trying to make them line up. I'm such a little perfectionist. I'm sorry. Ace of Swords tells me that... It's usually like new ideas, new thoughts, new ways of like intellectualizing things. It's very mental. Like, this is not, you got nothing about emotions. I feel like maybe you're somebody that often deals in the emotional fulfillment of things. And that's just something that like Spirit said was like, notice that this is very intellectual. Even this Eight of Wands, we have this brain being highlighted, or like the parts of the brain. So to me, this is like maybe you've been a little bit too in the emotional state of things. And there's nothing, again, I really want to drive this home. There's nothing wrong. Like, you're not too emotional. You're not too much. Anybody that tells you you're too much, tell them to fucking go find less. Okay. It's not that. Emotions are great. I think you have done a lot of work when it comes to your emotions, and it's time to approach things with a little bit more discipline. And that, I feel like, is ultimately where we are. There is this like need for mental clarity, maybe even a little bit of compartmentalizing, and not letting your emotions control everything that you will do. Because it seems to me like you need clear mind, like a clear mind, and less of the emotional input is what is needed. And I know that this might be really hard. Like, hello, I have a Cancer stellium in my chart. I am an emotional wreck. I think that's why I'm having a hard time with the message Spirit is giving me, is because for me, this would be hard to hear. But that's the thing with channeling, y'all. You really have to put yourself aside and just like say what is coming through. And that's sometimes difficult. But what I'm really getting from this is like, you're meant to really move into just not letting yourself spiral on the emotions, because it's, gosh, I just put something out on this on my Instagram too, that was like talking about procrastination and how when we are stressed, especially like emotionally stressed too, we will procrastinate because stress kind of stops us from expanding. It helps, it's like gives us a singular focus to what the stress point is. And you're not a procrastinator. You're just somebody that has procrastination habits. And usually you'll like stop yourself and slow down, or really get invested more in the emotional side of things whenever something starts to feel a little challenging. And this is not a bad thing. You've done a lot of this. I'm hearing it's good for you, but it's not serving you anymore. The coping mechanisms that you've been using to try to get to where you want to go and like out of your current situation, it's not going to come by that. You have to start pushing past that. And it's not because you're not like, okay, I'm just going to say what is coming up. I feel like you might have an obsession with healing. And I've been there. I totally get it. Where we think we're going to be able to heal like every little piece of us, every little emotional upset, every little thing of why we're feeling some type of way. And I got to tell you, you're never going to heal to the perfect version of yourself. That will never happen, because the healing work is never done. Even if we heal from something in this lifetime, we're going to be given a new set of things. Like, healing is going to be a continuous unfolding process. You're never going to be the perfect version of yourself that is going to be able to show up for yourself the way that maybe you've put it on the pedestal in your mind. And it's time to stop letting your emotions control everything that you do. And it doesn't mean, I really want to make it clear, and I'm having such a hard time with this message, because this is some shit that if this were my pile, I would not want to hear this. And that's why I'm having a hard time. But I'm really hearing that you really need to focus on your ideas, your mental clarity, and literally like reprogramming the way that you think. And this is possible. This is something that is doable. You might even want to look into like hypnosis, or I would say affirmations if they help you. I do have an affirmation track that I recently released. This is shameless self-plug, I guess, that it's on YouTube. I plan to release more because my affirmations are different. They're not I am or I have affirmations. They are like the step in between. They are I am beginning to believe, or I am starting to become. They're kind of this step in between affirmation that if you have a hard time getting on board with affirmations, I believe that that track will help. It's my lucky girl, but they're gender neutral affirmations. I plan to make more in the future. That was just like the first test run, and everybody has really seemed to like it that's listened to it. But I feel like that might help you kind of get in the right mindset, because there's one more thing I'm going to say, and then we're going to move on. Something else I need you to know, pile number one, is that we all experience confirmation bias, every single one of us. We have a reticular activating system in our brain. And if you believe something about yourself or about your situation, your mind will continuously filter all the reasons that that is true. Like if you think you're going to starve as an artist and that is your internal belief, you will constantly filter through your reticular activating system people that have like failed at being an artist. You will become really aware of that, or you will see like ways in your life that you feel like you have failed, and you'll keep instilling that belief in yourself. It's time to actually change that belief system because it's holding you back. It's keeping you from actually becoming who you came here to be. And it keeps kind of blindsiding you. And it's time to change that, to change your mind about who you are. Now, we also have for you a couple of difficulties that are definitely going to come up during this transition. We have choice. Choice, this is from the Dreams of Gaia deck. And we also have the scribe. So something that's going to come up for you. Oh, let me put these a little more in frame. I'm sorry. Something that's definitely going to come up for you. And I'm not Willy Wonka. I'm not going to sugarcoat this for you. I'm going to tell you exactly what's coming up. But it's a choice. It is a choice to sit in unhappiness. It is a choice to sit and stew on your feelings. It is a choice to decide to let your emotions override. It is a choice. And this doesn't mean that it's always an easy choice to make, to walk away from it, to change it. It's honestly some of the hardest work you'll ever do. And I really do stand behind that. It's some of the hardest work to do when you're in the eye of the storm. You feel all of these unsettling feelings and you decide that you're going to commit to thinking a different way about it. It's hard work, but it is a choice. And this card, I feel like, is really coming out. It's coming for your jugular, to be honest, because it even has a crying face and then like a neutral face in this card. It is a choice. You are consciously or unconsciously making the choice to sit in these uncomfortable feelings. And I don't know if it's because maybe in the past, sitting with these feelings has done something good for you, but this is no longer the approach because the approach isn't working anymore. And this is going to continuously be a challenge until you work towards it. So that is like your biggest thing, I think, that's going to come up is your feelings and whether you're going to let them flood you or overflow you. And I want to say, like, there's so much room for nuance with this because sometimes you need a good cry. It releases the cortisol from your body. It helps you to cry. Sometimes you need to let your emotions get the best of you. Sometimes that is what is absolutely needed. But sometimes it is exactly what is not needed. And it is a past pattern playing out that needs to be done away with, and a new pattern needs to be chosen. I hope that makes sense. It really can be that easy. And please know there's a lot of nuance to that. I am not a therapist. Please do not use my readings like therapy. If you are, you're using them wrong. And then another challenge that's coming up for you is the scribe. Now, the scribe is somebody that like really takes a like big recollection or like maybe even uses writing as a way to process. But the scribe ultimately is like a record keeper. So what this says to me as a challenge is you're currently letting yourself be defined by a version of your past self when you need to work to design a new version of you and follow what that person would do. Follow who that person is. And it doesn't mean that you're going to have 100 days strong of being this person with no slip ups and no like reverting back to old ways of thinking. That's going to happen. That's part of the process. But the more you commit to the new version instead of the past recollection, the easier this process is going to become. Now, a couple things that will help you in this process. Number one, we have one of my favorite cards in this deck. We have the Sovereign. The Sovereign is literally somebody who is unto themselves. And this could be like Me and one of my best friends call this like hermiting, where we just like hermit it up. And we just need to spend time alone, not talking to anybody, not doing anything. And being the sovereign is, honestly, it helps you to get clear on who you are, who you want to be. I did basically like a sovereign, what have you. I want to say that was in like December, maybe even no, it was December of last year, right before the new year. I did a week, or maybe it was 2 weeks. Was it a week or 2 weeks? I think it was a week without my phone. And I did turn it on periodically just to make sure that like there was no emergencies. But for the most part, I did not engage. I was not on socials. I was not talking to anyone. I let the people closest to me know that I was taking a break. And this was so good for me. I was able to get clear on who I am, who I came here to be, what vision I wanted for 2023 as we came into this new year. And honestly, I think that sovereign time really helped me to come out of one of the darkest chapters of my life that I've ever dealt with. So this might be difficult at first if you're used to like socializing or being around others. And remember, I know we talked about like saying yes to more things. That might come a little bit later. You might have to work on the mental aspect first before we can feel open to doing things with people, because it looks like the sovereign is where we need to go first. It's spending time alone. And I would always encourage, this is definitely my bias. This is not coming from spirit. This is my specific advice to you. We'll get back to the channel in a second. But something that I always encourage, if you feel like you need a refresh in your life, is step completely away from technology. Don't play video games. Don't get on Netflix. Don't binge watch TV. Do not look at the news. Oh my God, do not look at the news. Do not get on social media. Just take a technological detox, because sometimes we have a lot of like mixed up feelings and emotions, maybe even about the world, when we are constantly engaging. And something that I had to realize when I went through my own little, like I also did that when I took time away. I didn't like binge watch TV. I didn't get on socials at all. I realized how much I was being influenced by other things around me. Whether I thought that I was influenced or not, I realized very quickly that I was being influenced. The way that like, even with like other people's energy through the TV is, I know that might sound crazy, but it tracks. Like you will pick up on energy, even if somebody's like acting. Okay. And it doesn't mean never engage with those things. I just think it's really important to have boundaries with those things. And something that came out of that for me was I realized that for the past several years, I had like made it my mission to be right and to be politically correct and to be on the right side of things and blah, 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 blah. And not to say that there aren't certain things that I still stand for. It's like I didn't become spineless, but something that I realized during that was I felt like I didn't even know who I was anymore. Like I had lost such touch with the world actually being a good place because I was so influenced by all of the nonsense and news that was piping through my life. And I understand that that is such a privilege to even be able to step away from things like that, because some people frankly just do not have the opportunity. But I also think that's something to be said for privilege. If you have privilege and you're not using it to like better your situation or better help serve the collective, what is even the point? Like I feel like if I can't show up as my like biggest, boldest, brightest light bringer self, how can I help anyone? How can I help the collective, right? And I'm saying these things to you because this might be something that you really struggle with. How can you show up and be a part of the collective or be a part of this world and be this person that you came here to be when you're constantly being influenced by everything else, wanting to make the right choice, the educated choice? Frankly, I know we're in a day and age where we always have stuff available to us, but our minds have not caught up to speed with that. With how much is thrown at us, how much information we receive, it's too much. We have not evolved as a species to hold that much. People 50 years, maybe more than 50 years. When I say 30 years ago, I still think 1970. And bitch, that's like the 90s. So probably more than that. But like, I think about like the 1800s, okay? You had to wait for a letter to receive bad news. Now, every day, bad news, constantly. It's not good. It's not healthy. And I would say just like have good boundaries with that because it does influence you. And you being aware that the world is falling apart every single day is not doing anything good for you. Literally, you cannot solve the world's problems by yourself. There is nothing that you can do that is going to solve something immediately. And maybe if you feel open and ready, or you're going down a path that's actually going to help others, it makes sense to be involved. But if it constantly is weighing you down, that's what I'm really trying to get to. If this is weighing you down, take it out. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. And anyways, moving on. We also have get curious. So this, I feel like, is also really interesting in the sense of, spending some alone time, getting clear on who you want to be, getting clear on what you want to do, but getting curious. This is a really beautiful thing. I honestly think some of the best people in the world, the reason that the 80-year-olds that I like that are so cool, they're cool because they never let themselves stop being curious. Nothing to me is more sad than when, two things. If people stop going after their dreams, that makes me really sad. But also with get curious, nothing makes me more sad than when people stop being curious. When you think you know all of something. Like, I honestly, every time I talk about the Superhuman app, nothing makes me more sad than when people are like, but I've already done all the meditation apps. I already know about wellness. I already know about being present. And I'm like, yo, but this app is different. Like, it's that. Like, be open, especially if, and not just with Superhuman. I brought that up because it was a specific example in my life where I don't know if anybody that I've told that app about, which is like everyone, I don't know if anybody has actually used it. I think some of y'all in the community have, and you've told me that you've loved it and it exceeded your expectations. But I don't know if anybody in my life has actually downloaded the free trial but also at the same time, if I could show my ass a little bit, I feel like what works for me isn't always going to work for somebody else, and I have to respect that. But when I say get curious, it's that. Like, even if you know everything about meditation, maybe consider trying the Superhuman app trial and seeing if you like it, okay? Or maybe you feel like you know everything about philosophy, but maybe go check out a book from your local library on philosophy and expand yourself a little more. Maybe you feel like you know everything about tarot, but enroll in a tarot course, right? It's okay to not know everything about something. And the more you can leave yourself open, the better. I feel like even when I feel like I'm an expert on something, which is very few things, but even if I feel like I'm an expert on something, I always try my best. I'm not perfect, but I always try my best when somebody comes to me with information, even if I've heard it before. I let them speak because to me, this is the universe saying to me, hey, maybe you haven't thought about it this way, from this perspective, from this person, or maybe I need to hear it again. Maybe I need my memory refreshed, right? So stay curious and stay open. I feel like when we're curious, this is coming from a really healthy, rested state usually. And so being sovereign and getting curious. Now, the gifts that are going to come from this experience, from becoming this person, is number one, we have flexible. So you're going to be a lot more open to being more flexible and not being rigid in anything that you do. I feel like rigidity is definitely not your ball game. Looking at the child eternal or the artist, there's nothing in this. Maybe the judge can be a little rigid, but when it comes to this entire reading, A gift that you'll be given is flexibility. The flexibility of knowing that things can always change. The flexibility of knowing that you can change. The flexibility of knowing that your path is always open to change. The flexibility of being able to create your life the way that you deem fit and being comfortable with flexibility, being comfortable with change. And we also have orphaned, which I'm actually going to look at the book for this card because I want to know how this is a gift, because I mean, I'm sure that there's something about this that is special, but the only things that came to my mind, I was like, ow. So I want to actually pull the book just for a second and see. Okay. So this says a sense of loss, an identity crisis, recognizing you don't fit in, the need to belong, or uncertainty about your place. I'm going to keep going. We are all meant to have connections with other people within our family, society, and the larger culture. No person is an island. And it's important to recognize when being a part of, rather than separate from, is essential to your well-being. The issue at hand is the need to find where you fit. Be true to your own truth, your core truths and values, perhaps no longer identifying with a group or community this way, the way you did before, and need to find a new situation. You might be feeling a deep sense of loss or confusion. Address the need for belonging and know that you will find your place with others like-minded and like mind and spirit. It's okay to let go of the pressure to fit in. Not everyone will understand you, and it's time to move on. So the gift that's going to be coming is you're no longer going to feel othered. You're not going to feel like you don't belong. You're not going to feel like you don't fit. Because when you embrace this way of being and fully own it and don't feel bad about it and really become this person, the people are going to like line up around the block. The people that you need in your life that think like you, that act like you, that have similar values, similar spirituality, are open-minded like you, are creative like you. Those people are going to show up and it's going to change your life. You're going to find your community. And if I could just give you a little bit of hope, pile number one, I want to share one final personal story, and that's going to be the end of your reading. When I moved to my current home, which is amazing, it's lovely. I have a whole video on my Patreon that gives you a walkthrough. I live on the water and I love it here. I had moved to Washington like a year prior to moving into this house, which the house is in Washington as well, Washington State. And moving to Washington, I honestly was devastated. I felt like I had no friends except for I knew two people in the area that we were close, but like that was the extent of it. I knew I had two people in the area, but I felt like I had no friends, no family, no community. I felt completely lost, and it wasn't for lack of trying. Like I would try to put myself out there. I would try to meet people. I would go on Facebook and look for community things. I even reached out to a couple of members of our community and asked like people that I knew that lived in the Washington area, like in the Discord, I reached out and was like, hey, where are all the witchy people? Like I need to make I need new friends. Like it's really hard to be by myself. And for the first year that I lived here, I met no one. I met not a single soul. I felt really alone, really isolated. That was honestly like the hardest year of my entire life, was the first year that I spent living here. Literally the worst year of my whole life. And then I moved here and it felt very aligned. Everything happened in a really beautiful way. It was very synchronistic. And within moving here, not even 2 months later, I met a group of people that I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my gosh, like I'd been really struggling with my identity of home and what home meant to me. And it was after that, I like came home to my beautiful house and I was like, wow, I'm home. I've struggled without a home, like not a physical home, not a physical location, though had some issues too, but like a spiritual home, a community home, people home. And also feeling home within myself, which was something I worked on for over a year as well. But finding that community I remember coming home and just realizing for the past like long stretch, I felt like a woman with no home. And that was the missing piece. I didn't feel at home because it was missing community. And I've totally found my community. I've been out with these same people a few times now, and it's like a breath of fresh air to talk to people that understand me spiritually, that are into the same things, that are entrepreneurial, that are building their own businesses. And it just like, it's everything that I ever asked for in a community. And I feel so lucky to be in, like, I live in a small town. Like, it's weird that I would even meet like-minded individuals in the place that I live, and like, here they all are. And it really can be like that. When you start to be yourself unapologetically, put yourself out there a little bit. But first, you have to know yourself before you can get there. And I believe in the process that you're going through right now, pile number one. This is going to get better. And you've had a really long reading. I hope all of this resonated with you, because I did not anticipate giving you like a 40-minute reading, but here we are. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that if you're feeling lost, this really helped you feel better. And please do not forget, please, especially you, when you stand in your own authenticity, you empower everyone around you to do the same. And I will talk to you in the next reading. If you would like to support me more in this community, please, please, please check out my Patreon, where there's extra content, community events where we actually get together live as a community once a month. I put out weekly energy card readings. There's extra pick a cards. It's where I often will do like monthly, like if there's like a monthly pick a card or a full moon pick a card or something that's timed, usually timed readings go there. You get tarot and astroscopes every single month as well for your zodiac sign. So definitely check out the Patreon. I love the community we have there, and it really is my goal to grow the Patreon more this year. So definitely check that out. If you would like to support me even further, never an expectation, but always appreciated. I do accept tips for my readings. My Cashapp, Venmo, and PayPal are listed down below, and also my wish list. Y'all are so freaking kind. I've received a couple of gifts recently from y'all, and when I get them, I always go into like the throne and I respond and tell you like how I've used the gift, and I just really appreciate that. And with tips, I always pour everything back into the channel unless you tell me to do something else with it in like the notes. So thank you to those of you that have given me that generosity. I appreciate you. And I also have my podcast, new episodes every single Monday. My goal for 2023 is to have 1 million downloads. We are currently at 183K. So I believe we can do it for 2023. So definitely give the podcast a listen if you want to. And follow me on my socials. I'm at Kloee Taylor everywhere. Check out our Discord if you want to be more a part of this community and meet more like-minded individuals for yourself. I love you so much, pile number one, and I will talk to you in the next one. Bye. All right, pile number two, if you chose the yellow rose, this is going to be for you. Who are you meant to be in this lifetime? So number one, we have the saboteur, the rescuer, the fool, the mediator, and the avenger. So what I think is so interesting is that we have the saboteur, the rescuer, and the avenger all at the same time. It's like this chaos of sabotaging, but also like saving and avenging, which I feel like the rescuer and the avenger kind of go hand in hand. Saboteur and fool kind of go hand in hand, but then we have this like mediation between the two of them. So let's kind of break this down card by card. So first and foremost, we'll start with saboteur. So none of these are bad cards, by the way. I'm working with the light attributes of the cards, not the shadow attribute, unless spirit calls me to look at that. And the light attribute of the saboteur is basically it highlights your fear of self-empowerment and the changes it would bring to your life. So it highlights what you're actually afraid of. It's kind of like how we can feel really, really, really bad if we don't feel successful, but at the same time, we can be absolutely terrified to receive success, okay? So saboteur, it shows us where these problems crop up, where there is like a imbalance for you in your life. This is actually something that you are meant to work through this, either to benefit yourself, like this is a part of like your own, I'm hearing the word karmic, like this is a karmic life lesson for you that you didn't learn in a past life, so you're being forced to learn it in this lifetime, that there are ways to break through sabotaging behavior. And something I want to tell you, pile number 2, is something that I feel like it's more new to the mental health realm. Please remember, I'm not a therapist. I'm not licensed to give therapy advice. If you're using my readings like therapy, you're using them wrong. But something that I feel like has come up a lot recently in mental health, at least for me, that could really help you is to redefine how we look at the terms self-sabotage, because self-sabotage is actually just you getting your needs met. And in the past, the way that you would get them met was through a coping mechanism that served you. And now what has happened in your life, potentially why you're feeling lost, is because that coping mechanism is actually causing destruction and it's not working anymore. And you're having to work through that sabotaging behavior to get to the other side. So there is a light attribute to this because it helps you to see what the actual problem is. Your sabotaging behavior is actually here to show you where the problem is. And it can be like, it's the same way with like how anxiety, even though it might be hard to see, anxiety is a gift because it tells you exactly what is wrong if we pay attention to it, what isn't in alignment with us, what goes against our values, what highlights our fears. And it shows us the exact place that we need to turn towards to actually work on healing. So saboteur is that same energy. You are actually given the gift in this lifetime to see what needs to be worked on through that. Now, the rescuer, this actually is, you're somebody that you're meant to support others in crisis. And this honestly might be why you've had to work on this self-sabotaging behavior, is because you are going to be able to help others that deal with this in crisis. I also feel like with the mediator and the avenger, all of these cards to me speak on helping others, working with the public maybe in some way, but helping other people. And that's why you're being faced with the challenges that you are, because you're meant to help somebody else or maybe even many other people work through them. So this is also about having the ability to act out of love with no expectation of reward. That's what like the rescuer does. And it's, I do want to say, Spirit is asking me to call forth the shadow attribute of the rescuer. Excuse me. Oh my gosh, that escape of energy. And the shadow aspect is that you may assume that the rescued will reciprocate or keep the rescued one needy, keeps the rescued one needy. So it's like you need to feel valued potentially by others. So you think that this is your inherent value, is you have to rescue others. So this can be a really good thing that actually helps other people. But if it comes down to this, like it is what fulfills you is to play rescuer and always feel like you have to save people, this will often leave you feeling very depleted, frustrated, annoyed, so I would say that this is something, especially because Spirit asked me to talk about the shadow attribute of it. This is something that, yes, you are really excellent in this lifetime at being a rescuer, but you're going to have to balance it, because there are going to be times where being the rescuer actually hurts you more than it helps you. Now, the Fool card coming out here, this is really about being really fearless in who you came here to be, not really caring what other people think of you, and helping to spin reality on its head, helping people to see a different direction, a different perspective, and really like pointing out hypocrisy or absurdity, but making it comical. So in your life, you actually are very funny. You have this excellent sense of humor. And if you don't feel like you've stepped into that yet, you will. But it's about like being fearlessly yourself and creating joy. Honestly, I feel like you might even be someone that you could be into like being a comedian specifically, but I also feel like who you're meant to be in this lifetime is really just somebody that analyzes your surrounding world and kind of picks it apart to make it more lighthearted when things are serious, which you're really an important piece to the collective because so many of us feel like the future is very bleak and your lighthearted energy is necessary. Now, with the mediator, gifts for negotiating fairness and strategy in personal and professional life, respect for both sides of an argument. This is also really beautiful energy. This is the energy of basically not being somebody that has black or white thinking. You're able to hear both sides of things and really try to make informed decisions. It's like, let's say, for example, that somebody comes to you with some shit they heard about somebody else. You're going to be the first person that says, you know what? I would rather talk to them and ask them what this is about before just blindly believing something that you heard. And this, again, is very valuable. I feel like in today's world, gossip is something that really runs amok. And gossip is a false sense of connection. And you actively are somebody that is meant to fight against this. That you're not somebody that is meant to just willy-nilly believe what other people say about others to you. And you recognize that gossip really just hurts the person being gossiped about, and it doesn't actually forge strong connections. You're more likely to hear both sides of an argument instead of just being really judgmental. And this is amazing. People need this. The world really, really needs this. Especially, I feel like in America. I don't know where you are, but my goodness, do we have such divide and polarization in a lot in this country. Like, we need more people that are willing to look at both sides and try to see every perspective. Now, moving on to the Avenger, desire to balance the scales of justice, righteousness on behalf of society or oneself. Ooh, I just got the chills. It's like, you might even find that you're somebody that wants to get into the justice system because you see what a joke it is. You see how, like, the things that we have made up rules around maybe are not the way that you wish society would do rules. And you want to bring change to them. That is part of why you're here. And being the Avenger, it's like, you want to rebalance. You want to help the universe rebalance the scales. It's actually a very noble task that you feel called for. Now, I want to say that this doesn't mean that you're going to get into the criminal justice system. It might, if that's what you're into, but this could also be just like, I mean, shoot, even if you wanted to like create a podcast, a YouTube channel, a photography business. It doesn't have to be shooting portraits. You could shoot like really serious art pieces that depict this, right? Getting into graphic design where you show both sides of an argument and like create an Instagram account, okay? Even when it comes to maybe it's like you need to get your thoughts and opinions out there. This is something that really matters to you. You see how things in the world are not being done correctly, or it's not even that you have every single answer. It's just you think that there's a better way. And you're somebody that actually is here to help make this. And you're feeling lost right now, I would say, because the world isn't ready for you yet. And that doesn't mean that it won't be ready in your lifetime, because it's why you're here. But the world is not ready. Actually, I think we are ready, to be quite honest. I do think the world is ready now, but it's still very new. It's very new to consider both sides of the argument, to be more open to how somebody feels, to be more open to the nuance of things, right? Nuance is such a thing that I feel like today's modern society really ignores when we try to make these polarizing claims or these clickbait titles, right, on everything. You're somebody that really wants to negate against that and create more nuance, open conversations, help people feel like they belong. Your role is actually so important, pile number 2. And I need you to know that if you're really going through it, I feel really called by Spirit to say this to you. If you're really going through it, I need you to hold on. I need you to be here. Spirit needs you to be here. You are here for a specific purpose, and your purpose is to basically step into the world in a way that we've never seen it before. You're here at this time for a reason. And I feel like I almost never get messages like this. I'm getting a little emotional. You're here for a very specific reason. And it's not that like, there are people that need your words and your ideas to heal them. My heart feels like really expansive and open, and like, you know that feeling when like your heart swells? Like, I don't know how else to explain it. It feels like that. I wonder if there's something about like the heart chakra in here. We'll keep going and find out, see if we have any like more cards that describe that. But it feels very like, I feel like you're growing really impatient because you really just want to like move forward right now. And Spirit is ultimately saying that it is your time, but it's going to be a slow build. And you might even find that in the beginning, people do not support the things that you're about or what you're saying, but they will. And it's really important that you just keep putting yourself, your ideas, your values, the way that you think and do things out there, because it will catch on. And I'm going to tell you something else, pile number 2, especially if you want to be like a digital creator. This is a very specific message for a very specific set of people, but it's really important that you start putting yourself out there now, even while this isn't as popular. Because when it becomes popular, having a backlog of your content is what is going to be necessary. Like when you have that one TikTok, that one reel, that one video, that one podcast, that one picture, right, pop off, people are going to go to your online accounts and they're going to want to like look at what you've made because they're interested in what you're saying. And if you don't have a backlog of content, it's going to be a very hit, and then everything's going to kind of just not really do anything. It's going to fizzle out. So right now, Spirit, like literally through my third eye, Spirit is saying like you need to work on creating the backlog of content. If this is you and this is resonating when it comes to being a digital entrepreneur, you need to start creating that backlog of content and putting it out there, even if it's not immediately supported. Now, for everybody else that's not about you, we're going to keep going, and we're still, all of you, obviously I'm talking to, but like that specific part of the message was for very specific people, okay? Now, how do we do this? How do we move forward in this way? I actually get the notion that a lot of these things you might have already known coming into this reading. Like, I don't know that I'm telling you anything that you didn't know, but Spirit is saying, I am so sorry that Spirit is saying this to you because it's rude, but Spirit number 1 is saying that you need to be a little more patient, and you've been patient. I know this is really hard to hear. I can tell. But you don't turn lead into gold in a day. Rome was not built in a day. More patience is needed. And I know you just want to blast forth. You might even see people around you that have what you wish you had right now. But I promise you, your journey is going to be so much sweeter as it delicately unfolds. And Spirit is saying it's time to have a little more patience, okay, with the Temperance card. We also have the 5 of Wands and the Magician. So, this is actually kind of sweet. So, the 5 of Wands tells me that you need to make chaos your friend, meaning, like, I feel like there is this innate fear of chaos, of upsetting others, of being othered. And the 5 of Wands tells me that even if your opinions don't match up with the rest of the world, That's okay. It is okay if chaos exists. You're never going to be for everyone. And if your biggest fear is like other people being mad at you or upset with you, or like that is really agitating energy, Spirit is saying you need to learn to become comfortable with this. And it takes time. And honestly, I would say that it sometimes takes exposure in order to get better. And this is like, it's not your job to water yourself down or make yourself more pleasing to others. And honestly, it's really important that you don't do that. And so if you've been feeling uncomfortable and stuck, I feel like it's that. Like, chaos is your friend. And I know it doesn't feel like it's your friend. Chaos sucks. But this is something that's actually going to help you in the future. You're learning the lesson right now, because in the future, you're going to be able to stand so much more firmly in who you are and the message that you came to like put out there and the things that you came to actually change in this world. You're somebody that is actually here to make real change in the world. And I'm not saying that everybody doesn't play a role, because I would argue that every single person on the face of this earth creates change in some way. We all create a ripple in our friends and our families and our communities. But you really came here to create like massive change, like either lead a community, actually change laws, possibly. Like, there is something here about you really making big change. And the sooner you get comfortable with people not understanding you or misrepresenting you, it doesn't mean you have to take things laying down, but the easier this is going to become. Knowing that these are things that probably will happen, and you need to become comfortable in who you are and stable enough in who you are and knowing yourself so that this doesn't blast you like off kilter, basically. And the Magician, the reason I said this is cute is because the Magician tells me that Spirit is literally saying, get more into your spiritual practice. Get more into your spiritual practice, open up more to astrology, open up, especially astrology with all these planets. Maybe talk to an astrologer, ask if they see anything for you. Start creating some kind of spiritual practice when it comes to calling your dreams in, calling things that you want into your life in. I say that because the Magician is literally the card of taking that quantum energy, that heavenly energy, that universal source, God, whatever you want to call it, energy, and bringing it into the physical and being like, I'm getting the chills talking about this because you have so much power, but you're not putting it into action. Like, this could be as easy as doing candle like spell work. This could be meditating on what you want. This could be actually spell crafting if that's something you're into. Scripting is fantastic. Writing petitions. Gosh, if y'all want like, just real quick, if petition, like recently I've been working with petitions. That's why I bring it up. Bahati Life. I love Bahati Life. I'm always going to talk about her. She's fabulous. Bahati Life here on YouTube has a wonderful video on petitions, and I've used it multiple times. It literally is like foolproof magic. Works every time. I used a petition to call in my house that I'm currently living in, and it literally manifested within 2 weeks out of nowhere, and it fit perfectly. Like, the descriptions I put in that petition are to a T. Recently, I created a petition on the Pisces new moon that I'm still waiting for it all to come in, but I guarantee you within a month, it's all going to be here. Like, I have no doubt because it's worked before. And I feel like you're really being asked to create this kind of practice because you don't believe, like, you are having a hard time actually believing that things can happen, that you can manifest. But the reason you don't believe is because you haven't had enough evidence of it working, because you're not putting enough of it out there. And the Magician says that now is the time. You are being fully supported to really step into a strong spiritual practice and make it routine for yourself. The number one thing I'm going to tell you is don't just do something because I told you it worked for me, like me, Kloee. Don't do something because I told you it worked for me. Do something because it sounds exciting and fun for you. If you feel drawn to candle magic, do that. If you feel drawn to scripting, do that. If you feel drawn to petition writing, do that. If you feel drawn to moon magic, do that. Whatever your form of intention setting, manifesting is do what excites you, because that is the method that will actually work for you. This is why you see people doing methods and they're not working, is because they think something that worked for someone else is automatically going to work for them. And that's really not how manifesting works. Different methods work for different people because it's really your belief behind it. If you believe something will work and you're in like the joy and happiness and flow of it, it's way more likely to work for you. This is why there are so many methods. Now, a couple of challenges that you're going to meet along the way, and then we'll talk about how you're going to work through them, is number one, the 10 of water. So one challenge that you're going to have, and you maybe already experienced this, pile number two, is actually receiving. I actually feel like you're one of those people, and this is something that is common, and it sucks that it's common, but it's like when good things happen in your life, you're immediately scared that something bad is going to happen. And you have a hard time staying in the receiving mode because you're not used to just receiving a lot of goodness. You're used to like something good happening and then something bad happening. And the 10 of water tells me that you're actually entering a phase of your life where things are about to get so much easier. And that's going to feel scary because you're not used to it. I want to say the holistic psychologist talks about this a lot, and I really love the work that she does in regards to this. So if this is resonating with you, please check out her work. But she talks a lot about how our emotions can become addictive. Like we can become addicted to chaos unconsciously. If that's all we've ever known, when something good happens, it's like our self-sabotaging behaviors will crop up to kind of ruin that because it's all we've ever known, and the chaos feels more comfortable than things feeling good feels. So just know that this is a challenge that may come up for you. The other challenge that's going to come up for you, and this almost makes me laugh because it's not funny. It makes me laugh because it's like not funny, haha, funny, weird. Also, I know exactly what this feels like, and it's rough. So the sage coming up as a challenge, this is like the challenge of the sage is knowing when to speak and when not to. And it's like you have all this information, all these good ideas. You're the mediator, the avenger, the rescuer, right? You want to help people and you know how, but not everybody wants to hear it. And your challenge is going to be knowing when it's the right time to express what you know and when it's the time to just shut up, basically. That not everybody's going to be open to hearing what you have to say. And it's like first they'll make fun of you, and then when they see what you've done, they'll ask you how you did it. And that's the energy you want to be in. Wait until people ask you. Don't try to force the way that you do things, the things you believe on others. Just do things from your perspective. Put things out into the world from your perspective, but don't expect people to initially latch on. Just do it for you first. Know when it's time to speak up and when someone is receptive, and know when it's not your job to try to convince them. Now, and honestly, before we move on, this can be hard with the sage too, because sometimes you're just like bursting at the seams with knowledge. Like you have so much knowledge you want to drop on someone because you know better with what they are dealing with. But honestly, if they're not in the receptive mode, they don't want to hear it. And you have to be okay with not screaming that at someone. And it's hard. It's hard work. Being a sage is hard sometimes. Now, a couple of things that are going to help you along the way is we have soul work. So I love this card. I feel like it's really rooted in your ability to not only just do like really soul-led work that is beneficial to you, beneficial to the collective, but you really are in this life as somebody who is meant to be really invested in soul, be really invested in what makes your soul feel good, what makes your spirit feel good. And the more soul work you do, the more presence you have with yourself, quiet time you have with yourself, the better. This is actually going to really help you evolve as a person. And we also have love. What did I tell you? I said my heart was swelling earlier, and I feel like y'all literally like the heart chakra. So you might really benefit from some heart chakra work. I would say my favorite way to do this and the easiest is literally go on YouTube, look up Meditative Mind on YouTube and look for their heart chakra music. It is some of the best I've ever listened to. I will play it throughout my house when I need a chakra rebalancing. Sometimes for like days up to weeks. I find that music really helps me, but I work very well with like audio stimulation. So if it's feelings for you, you need to feel into it. I would do things that connect you to the color green, to the heart, that get you into your feelings. If you're like a touch person, I'm not really sure what you would do for touch. Maybe like actually putting your hands over your heart. If you're a taste person, I would say get some heart chakra tea. I really love Buddha teas. I'll put a link for you down below. I have all of the chakra teas from Buddha teas. They're really good. They're actually like infused with the energy of each chakra as well as like crystal. I want to say the teas are crystal gridded as well. They're really awesome. They work super well. The heart chakra one's a really good one, but I would say that like through this, doing heart chakra work is going to help support you because I feel like your heart, you might find not like medically, I'm not talking about that, but like, you know how when you feel sad, sometimes like your heart feels like it's actually breaking. I feel like working with your heart chakra, working with that energy will actually help to really heal that. So I would say those two things are going to be helpful. And then two gifts that you're going to receive from this when you become this person, when you allow yourself to expand into this, we have imagine. And we also have building blocks. So number one, you are going to build something really amazing, whether it's a business or some kind of community. You are going to build something really amazing that is necessary in this world. And that is a gift that you will receive. And with imagine, it's actually, I really am getting a strong indication that like this is about imagining a better world, a better future, a better, like your imagination is being so blessed to see a better way that things can be done because you're here to be part of the change. And I also feel like your imagination might just also get very blessed in the sense of like, maybe you're going to end up writing like a fantasy novel or something. Like your imagination is going to get boosted from this and you're going to just have so much more creativity. You might even be somebody that is able to create things that have never been created before. And that is what I have for you, pile number 2. So I hope this reading helped you out. Please do not forget when you stand on your own authenticity, you empower everyone around you to do the same. If you would like to support this channel, if you resonated deeply with this reading, please be sure to check out my Patreon. We do weekly energy readings with tarot. You get tarot and astroscopes every single month for your zodiac sign. I also do extra pick a cards. All of my lifestyle content goes to my Patreon now instead of here. So like if you want to see like vlogs or anything like that, I also do like not 18 plus content. Like I don't do like sex work. It's not like that, which also sex work is work. I'm not shaming sex work. It's just not my thing. But I do like 18 plus content in the sense where like I'll do reading your cards while drinking, dragging your zodiac signs. We're actually working, me and my husband are working on producing he helps do like the editing. We're working on producing a dragging your Mars signs for Patreon only because Mars is like the planet of like war and also it deals with like your sexual desire. So if you want to see stuff like that, definitely make sure you go to the Patreon. That's where it's going to be. There's so much content already available over there and it really does support me as a creator. I really want to grow the Patreon community a lot this year. So I would love if you joined. If you would like to support me even further than that, I do have my Cashapp, Venmo, PayPal, and my wish list listed down below for you. It is never an expectation, but always appreciated. When it comes to tips, I often pour them back into the channel unless you leave me a note and tell me to do something different with it. So thank you to those of you that are generous and able to give to me in that way. I really appreciate it. And please don't forget to check out my podcast, available every single Monday. New episodes go out. We're about 100 130 episodes in. It's called Divine Authenticity. My goal for 2023 is to have 1 million downloads on the podcast. We're at 183K right now. So we're making our way downtown, walking fast, faces pass, and we're homebound. But definitely give it a listen if you want to hear like esoterica, wellness content, and really where you get like the context of everything that I do online. My podcast is like really where I get deep and kind of share everything. So check out the podcast. Follow me on socials. I'm at Kloee Taylor everywhere, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, etc. And also, if you're looking for a community of like-minded individuals, make sure you check out the Discord, where we actually do have like a whole community where there's like astrologers and witches, and we have like a general chat and so much more. I love hanging out with y'all in the Discord. Link for that, of course, is down below as well. And I will catch you in the next video. I love you so much. Bye, pumpkin. All right, pile number 3. If you chose the orange rose, this is going to be your reading. So who you're meant to be. Sorry, I feel like I just needed to take a deep breath. Maybe you do too. Let's do that one more time. Okay. So who you're meant to be, we have for you the engineer, the damsel, femme fatale, child divine, and trickster. So the engineer, this is about being able to get creative and be practical, but also having a talent and like basically a means for designing resolutions to common problems. You're like a problem solver, a solution finder. You might even be somebody that a lot of your friends turn to for advice. It also could be that you're meant to actually be an engineer. Like, I'm just going to call it like it is. It might be that some of you that pick this pile actually, like if you're in the business of engineering, like just take that as you're in the right field. But this doesn't mean that if you're not an engineer and you've never really thought about that you're going to be. It's that who you're meant to be is somebody that is able to give creative energy on like a practical sense. Okay. You're able to be a solution getter. Now, damsel and femme fatale and trickster. I'm going to be real with y'all. Some of y'all that chose this pile, you are literally meant to be like an OnlyFans creator or like, into like sex work. Now, this is not going to be everybody once again, but please just know that like that kind of work is work. We respect the hustle on this channel, and I have zero shame towards anyone who creates like that. I think it is work, and we need to get with it in today's world and stop judging, because it is still a form of work. And I do feel that like this pile, but like, you know what this is giving me? Like, if you have a midheaven or like strong Scorpio placements, I feel like especially a Scorpio midheaven, people love seeing you flaunt your sexuality or like your sexual intensity. Even like you might even have like natural like charisma as well. And please remember, like, I don't want to exclude anybody who is like asexual here. So I'm going to try my best to get like multiple answers from spirit about this. But so just know if like that's you, your time is coming. But right now I want to talk to those of you that like spirit, sometimes you make me say things that make me so uncomfortable, but here we are. Okay. I'm going to try to say this without getting demonetized. Some of you that chose this pile, you are literally meant to play the damsel in a like, have you ever seen those TikToks where it's like, people will be like, take that man's money, like pretending to be like this persona of either like somebody like, really just like flaunting their body, their sexual nature, their I hope you get what I'm saying, but like, it's almost acting like you're in distress if you're not, and like playing this role so that somebody who's looking like, it doesn't have to be a man, could be anyone, any person, somebody that's looking to like take care of someone. You are like the perfect candidate for that. basically. Like, this to me almost gets into the territory of like sugar daddy, sugar baby. Like I said, I'm trying not to get demonetized right now, but I do feel like this reading, some of y'all are genuinely meant to be like into that kind of work. And the reason I think the trickster is here with it though is like some of it, you know, that you're playing up parts of it that aren't really true to who you are in your day-to-day life. And like, you're supposed to, like, this is a creative expression for you. And for those of you that doesn't really feel like that aligns with you at all, I want to encourage you to really like get in touch with your divine feminine, okay? Because the damsel and femme fatale are like, to me, it's giving maiden and dark feminine energy. It's giving both. And whether you identify as male, as female, non-binary, it doesn't matter. Like, everybody has those innate archetypes within them. Like, I have a masculine archetype. I have a warrior archetype. I have the dark feminine archetype. I'm able to connect to all those different pieces, right? So everybody can connect to the maiden as well as the dark feminine. And both of these attributes are going to be really important for your soul's evolution. You are meant to be somebody that's able to flow effortlessly between the two. You can be the damsel. You can be somebody that is able to understand the nature of healthy romance and also inspires you to rely more on yourself. That's like the power of the damsel, is inspiring like hopeless romantic energy, but also inspires you to learn how to rely on yourself because you know what it feels like to be unable to rely on yourself. Do you feel you know what I'm saying? Now, the femme fatale, this is like, this opens your heart when your dependency is rejected. It also highlights erotic energy of the feminine, and like erotic energy, I feel like doesn't always have to be dark either. But I do feel like the femme fatale is often like, I want to say like the definition of femme fatale, it's connected to the dark feminine, to that side of like, to that side of feminine that's like very self-assured, very confident, very able to provide for herself. And for you, who you're meant to be is somebody that can flow between these two places. You're able to accept help, but you're also able to take care of yourself. And this might even be like a journey that you're just really on right now in this lifetime. And you're meant to be somebody who masters it. Now, child divine, this is innocence, purity, redemption, suggests a special connection with the divine. So you're also meant to be somebody that has strong spiritual connection. You might be somebody that already has this and has always felt like you've had it. I can definitely vouch that that's a real thing because I am somebody that has had that. Like my entire life, I've always told y'all, even on this channel, that like my crown chakra is one of my strongest chakras. I've always felt a connection to divinity since before I can remember. Like I've always had it. And for you, even if you don't feel like you have that now, the person you're meant to become is somebody that is like spiritually strong, connected to divinity, connected to source energy. And the trickster, this is about transcending convention, stiffness, and predictable behavior. So being very unpredictable, being more elusive, being more kind of leaving more than meets the eyes is like what I'm hearing from spirit. But ultimately, who you're meant to be in this lifetime, you are multifaceted and complex. Do not ever, pile number 3, let somebody put you in a box. I'm serious, because I feel like on one hand, people want to say that you don't know how to take care of yourself. And then when you start learning how to take care of yourself and like do good for you, they're going to say that you're too much. And then when you act like you know everything, you're able to help everyone, suddenly you're a know-it-all. And then when you decide that you want to be more aloof and like be more trickster energy, suddenly you're too flaky, or you're too like, you're always going to be not enough for someone. That is like a huge part of who you are meant to be. And the lesson here with all of these archetypes, because a lot of them don't really feel like they go together except for these two, but they're like opposers. This to me is like, you're always going to be too much for someone. And it's really important that you connect with all of these different archetypes, because as you have maybe been damned by people for being able to change like a chameleon so much, you're learning how multifaceted you are so that you will never put yourself in a box. Okay. So this is actually a really powerful lesson. And the way forward with this, to like get into this, to being able to flow from being different versions of yourself so effortlessly, we have the Ace of Cups, which tells me this is really rooted in self-love, your self-love journey, your ability to really fill up your own cup before you work towards filling up anyone else. We also have the Princess of Discs, which is basically like the Page of Pentacles, and the Nine of Swords. So I would say the positive side of the Nine of Swords is like, I feel like you've seen a lot in your life, and maybe that's why you're feeling lost and why you wanted to know more about who you're meant to be. But the positive side of the Nine of Swords, and this is going to sound counterproductive at first, but it really is. Take it from somebody who knows personally, like I know this, that if you're somebody that always catastrophizes, worst case scenario, because you've been through a lot, when there is a moment of crisis, you are the best responder. Like when shit in my life goes topsy-turvy, I am the best responder, because I have been through periods of my life where I have catastrophized everything. And it sucks. It sucks to be in the Nine of Swords and feel anxious all the time and heightened and maybe hypervigilant. But it like prepares you, because when my husband looks at me panicked, I am like the soother, and I'm like, oh, we're going to do this and this and this and this, and it's going to be better. And it's like a switch that flips in me, because I've already prepared mentally for this moment. Even if that moment never comes in my lifetime, there is a positive side to being somebody that catastrophizes. Now, I will tell you, coming out of catastrophe is definitely the route to go, just to save your body some stress and bring your cortisol levels down, because if they are elevated all the time, this can cause a lot more problems for you in the future. And please know that I am not a doctor, nor am I a therapist, so please do not take my readings as those. Please seek professional help where you need it. But I do feel that that is what Spirit is giving me to work with this Nine of Swords right now, because it is a like positive thing. This is actually something that you might really overthink a lot of things, but ultimately it makes you the best caretaker for yourself and for others. And you've been through so much in your life because you are meant to show other people how to live outside the box. And Princess of Discs with the Page of Pentacles here, basically, this is new inspiration, new innovation, new ways. Like, you were living in the future before the future was here. You might be somebody that you've actually found like new and interesting ways of making money that were not available to people even 50 years ago. Like, it's like kind of like how we have like YouTubers now, OnlyFans now. We have so many new careers that were never possible in like 1900. Okay. I feel like for you, I'm really getting this strong energy of like innovation and not being able to be put in a box, because you also innovate. You also are not afraid to reinvent yourself constantly if that's what it takes to get to being who you came here to be. You know, you feel me? Princess of Discs also tells me that like you also in this lifetime are not meant to make money in a traditional way. And I'm sorry if you hear any noise. It sounds like my husband just came home and the front door isn't connected to my office, but it's like in the next room over. So sometimes it's a little loud. It's an old door. But Princess of Disc also tells me that you just make money in really unconventional ways that like other people before you haven't done it. And also, especially coming out over Child of the Divine, like Spirit directs you and tells you where to go. Now, some challenges with your path that may come up. We have the Seven of Earth, which this tells me that like you're not always sure what to water. You're not always sure which thing you want to move forward with in life. You're not always sure what archetype you want to show up as. You're not quite there at that point of mastery yet. And so this can be difficult because you don't always know which version of you a situation needs. And this is something that you're going to learn with time, but it will be challenging right now. We also have desire as a challenge. And I feel like desire being a challenge, I hate seeing this card as a challenge because desire is so important. The reason we have desire isn't because we're meant to like transcend it and not have it. Desire actually creates inspired action. Think about that. Let's say you really want like to live a really luxurious life, okay? Because you desire luxury, you might be more inclined to work harder, create more streams of wealth, or maybe you really want a certain kind of family in your life, whether it is like, you know, maybe it's a family that you choose for yourself through friends, through like non-blood relatives. You're going to take inspired action to go and meet people that are interested in the things that you're interested in. So desire is actually so important. And so many of us have unhealthy relationships with desire because we think that we're meant to transcend it, or our desires are bad, or they're greedy, or they're like set in bad things. And no, our desires are inherently very sacred. To give you an example of this, in my life, I was always very, very, very like, money has always been a very stressful topic in my life. I have parents that to this day will still scream at each other. Like they're in their 70s and they will literally get into shouting matches over money. And doesn't matter like who's there. They'll just start yelling. Very, very reactive, not healthy. As a child, I was always told like that I asked for too much, or I wanted too much, or we couldn't afford that, or money doesn't grow on trees. Or I think the worst thing that was ever programmed into me that I had to work on was being told I want, like when I would say I want blank, like as a kid, like I want a Barbie house. Okay. That was something we talked about in another reading today. I want a Barbie house. I would be like mocked for that. I would have one of my parents go, "Oh, I want," like mocking it back to me. And I used to think for a really long time, because of those early years, that wanting things was bad and that I shouldn't want more for myself. When I have such a like innate desire for luxury, and I always have my entire existence. I have always like been enthralled by movies that show like really upscale living and like fashion designer bags and really expensive alcohol and really expensive shoes. Like I'm not talking about just like small desire and like, oh, that must be nice. Like, no. I was always enamored as a kid. Like even just from a really young age, I could appreciate the value of something. And same with like hotels or resorts, or even to this day, like you could put a tray of jewelry in front of me and without me having the price tags, I could tell you which one was the most valuable in the set, like monetarily. I have just like this eye for quality. That's really what it is it's like luxury isn't even necessarily money, it's a feeling. And I feel like I can get this from even like items. It's been something I've had since birth. And I used to feel really bad about that for years. Like even in my 20s, I would feel bad if I desired something. And I had to program that out of myself. and really learn to like forgive myself for having desire and even celebrating myself for wanting more. And obviously there's a balance with this. We don't need to like get on the hedonic treadmill and we're always chasing more. I've had to learn that lesson too a few times. But my point is that there is nothing wrong with desire. Desire is okay as long as you're not hurting anybody. And I don't mean just like hurting your mom's feelings because you desire a tattoo, because that's bullshit. That's like, your mom needs to get over that it's your body, okay? We're not talking about that kind of hurt. I mean like causing actual physical pain to someone else or like enacting violence. That's not what I mean when I say like all desires are okay, because there's obviously limits. Let's be reasonable humans here. But what I mean is that there is nothing inherently wrong with desiring. Desire is actually so good. It can point you in the direction of what it is that you want out of life. It can lead you down the pathway of getting what you want and teaching yourself new skills so that you can get those desires met. So look at your desires like a blessing and not a curse. They're not meant to be like this carrot on a stick hung out in front of you for you never to receive them. You have desire because you are meant to have it. What is desired by you is destined for you. And a couple of things that are going to help you kind of overcome the fear of desire or feeling like you don't know who to be or who to show up as. We have reclaim, which this is literally reclaiming yourself, reclaiming your personal power, reclaiming your energy. You can literally do this at any point in time. You can literally stand up after listening to this video and say, I now reclaim myself, my energy from any past, present, or future situation that it no longer belongs to. And like, just choose to like breathe in your own energy. That it can be that easy. But reclaiming yourself for yourself, I always encourage when you go to do this, like make it a ceremony, like do something that is ceremonious for you, whatever that looks like. I would honestly look up, Leor Alexandra has some really good ceremonies around like the new and full moon, but that. And then also we have the warrior. So the way that the warrior archetype will help you is honestly, the warrior isn't necessarily like fighting people and having violence and bloodshed. The warrior is somebody that stands up for themselves and stands up for people that maybe don't have a voice. And the warrior archetype, like you are learning through desire and maybe even being shamed for your desires in the past, that you need to stand up for yourself in this lifetime. It is a lesson that you're here to learn. And that warrior archetype is going to help you cut through and do it. So beautiful energy, actually. Both of these are extremely supportive. And the last two cards I have are actually blessings that you'll get when you decide to allow yourself to become this multifaceted individual. We have happy. So literally, when you finally decide that you are worthwhile, that there's nothing inherently wrong with you, and any of the bullshit things that people say about you, it says more about them and nothing about you. You are going to actually be so much more happy and fulfilled. Like you're going to feel joy as your baseline. And I always say that happiness is a choice because I do believe that it is. It's always, we can't always control what situations are given to us, but we can always decide how we're going to respond. So happiness to me is a choice. And that doesn't mean that we're never going to be sad or we're never going to deal with uncomfortable emotions, but as a result of this, you reclaiming yourself, you are going to feel lighter. You're going to feel happier. You're going to feel like reborn again. There's this egg and there's like a baby face in it. To me, that's like being reborn. And then we also have no place like home. So something else that you're going to receive from this is a home, literally somewhere where you feel at home. Now, this could be feeling at home in your body, feeling at home with yourself, feeling at home with your community, or an actual physical location that you will be blessed with. Now, please remember that what is within you is always without. Like what is within is always reflected outwards. So if you don't feel at home within yourself, your physical home and location are going to feel chaotic. And when you finally come home to yourself and accept that you are this multifaceted, untamable person, you're going to find that your physical home makes sense too. I have found this to be true in my own life as well. I felt like I was a woman with no home for almost 2 years internally. And the moment I finally started to come home to me, my actual physical home showed up. So it does happen like that. And at the end of this, you'll be given what feels like home. And that is what I have for you, pile number 3. I hope this reading helps you out. Please do not forget, when you stand in your own authenticity, you empower everyone around you to do the same. And if you would like to support my channel, please, please, please consider checking out my Patreon. It is available to you. We put out weekly energy updates, astro tarot scopes once a month. There's a card of the month. There's extra pick a cards, and all of my lifestyle content goes there. So like vlogs, my house tours up over there. If you want more content, it is a great way to support me as a creator, and you get a bunch of extra content for joining. So definitely check it out. I love Patreon. I really want to grow the Patreon more this year. So definitely give it a look. If you want to support me even further than that, I do accept tips for my readings. I have my Cashapp, Venmo, PayPal, and my wish list listed down below for you. I never expect that from you, but it is certainly always appreciated. I always pour any donations back into my channel on like tarot decks, crystals, flowers, incense, things that will help us to make more content for the channel. But if you leave me like a personal note and tell me to do something else with it, I always will. So like recently somebody was like, go take yourself on a sushi date, Kloee. And I just thought that was so sweet. Again, please know I don't expect that from you, but it was so kind. And thank you so much to those of you that give that to me. I really appreciate it. And don't forget to check out the podcast. New episodes every Monday. Divine Authenticity. It is everywhere. Link down below for you. It's available everywhere you listen to podcasts. We are 130-ish episodes in. My goal for 2023 is to have 1 million listens. We are at 183,000 listens. So my goal is 1 million for this year. So we are on our way. But definitely give it a listen if you like wellness content, esoteric content, anything like that. I have so much fun over there. It really is a passion project of mine. And if you would like to follow me around the web, I'm at Kloee Taylor on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. And last but certainly not least, we have our Discord. If you would like to join a community of like-minded individuals, there's an astrology section on there, a witchcraft section on there. There's a general chat, a gaming section, like whatever you're interested in. I feel like there's something for everyone. So if you would like to talk to more people from the community, it's free and amazing. The link is down below. And I love you so much, pile number 3. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will talk to you in the next one. All right. Bye.